So let's welcome Baron Davis and the next panel. Chris, Michelle, come on out.
What up?
Right.
Let's have a seat, bud.
Stanford's a fine school.
So no, Baron didn't lose a foot and a half of height and suddenly become a white woman. Nope, I am not Baron Davis. Baron is on his way, but for now, you're gonna get to know the four of us while we get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Michelle Abbs, and I have the pleasure of being joined by three and then a fourth in a second to really talk to you all about journeys of how we get to where we are, how we lead authentically from who we are, and maybe even be in a position of being an underdog and enter into the NFT space and excel, given our background. So to get us started, I want each of you to know who is up here with me so that we can share a bit about the journey of the underdog and how we got where we are. So first, I want to kick it off to my friend and hype man cheerleader mentor, Chris Adamo, who is just a light at any moment that you see him, whether it is 2 a.m. or 9 a.m. So Chris,
Hi.
Will you tell us a little bit about who you are at your core, your authentic self, and how you bring that into the NFT space?
Yeah. Well, I'm a kid from Queens, local boy. Got out, went to Miami 10 years ago. I worked in Web2 for a long time for a big e-commerce company, and then I always felt like the way to access things is to be the conduit for people. So being helpful as much as you can, be early, call folks back, do what you say you're going to do, and that gets you pretty far in the world. I think most people don't forget to do that stuff, so it's pretty commonplace. Yeah, I mean, for me, the journey's been just getting your hands dirty by trying things out. I'm also a full-time investor now at this point in my career. So you have, learn by doing is the most important thing for me. So I've done that for a long time. I currently advise a lot of projects in the Web3 space as far as launching NFTs, also helping Web2 brands go to Web3, which is not an easy thing to do a lot of times for folks trying to run the gauntlet of the way tech works and the way brands are used to doing things. And then, yeah, I just love throwing events too. So if you throw events, people tend to come to you and talk to you. And if you gather people in the right way and you're helpful, you get opportunities. So if Baron was here, he would tell you how he does that as a point guard in the NBA. Similar thing, be everyone's first phone call or first pass in. He'll be here in a little while. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm always happy to help people when they have questions or try and get folks to meet in their worlds that they haven't been able to touch before. Call me. So good to see you guys. Good morning.
And Kyle, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are, your authentic self, and how you bring that into Web3?
Yeah, hello, I'm Kyle Dumovic, and I run an experiential design consulting company. So we help brands kind of build experiences around events, projects, bring folks together. What Chris was saying about throwing events and parties, it's always more fun to be the one throwing the party than the one who's actually there. And as you can tell, when you're at an event or a conference like this, a big part of it is the after parties, the things that go until 4 o'clock in the morning. And at any given time, there's so many options that you can choose. So how do you differentiate your community and your event in a way that creates an experience that's memorable and impactful? And we were talking a little bit behind the scenes earlier about the Goblin Town party last night and the experience behind that. And I'm sure I'd love to get Baron's take on that too. But so my background before that.
I'm still there at the Goblin Town. I don't know.
Me
I think we're all
too.
still there.
I'm definitely still there.
But that's a little bit about me.
But Kyle, where are you from?
I'm originally from New Jersey. My family's from Melbourne, Australia. I went to school in the Bay Area, and now I live in Los Angeles, so kind of all over the place. And I'm relatively new. I'm newer than these folks to this space. This is my first panel being up, so I appreciate being in your company. And I've been so welcomed by my friends and contacts and network within the space. It's so welcoming. in general, Web3. Everyone wants to collaborate, everyone wants to work on something together, taking whatever you can to bring to the table. And I found that super inspiring as someone who spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley, which can be pretty closed off to some new ideas. And if you don't have a traditional tech background, people aren't willing to talk to you or take you seriously. So with Web3, it kind of changes that paradigm a bit.
Awesome. Great to meet you, and first panel. Good job, thumbs up.
Thank you.
So if I said Chris was like the bright light in the morning, Sarah is like the glitter girl, obviously. It's like so much sparkle happening. So if you're not awake and you're still at a goblin party, this helps. It's like a little coffee jolt. So Sarah, introduce yourself to the group and tell us about your authentic self and how you bring that into Web3.
Well, good morning, New York City. I love that you guys are here. It's so awesome. I am a New Yorker, but I grew up in a small farm town. My grandparents were farmers in Michigan. And so I think what that has brought for me is deep curiosity, because I grew up literally surrounded by kind of a lot of land, played in the country ditches, went to the public elementary school down the street, like a normal farm girl kind of childhood. But I was always so curious about everything going on around me. And thank goodness there was, like, in the town next door, there was a community theater, and there was arts and crafts, and there was like a real creative outlet. And so I think when you grow up in a very isolated place, you're also like, you're looking outside, you're trying to learn outside of yourself and outside of your town. And arts were always an outlet for me. Dance was an outlet. Just being out in nature, going and gardening with my dad, or going to the farm with my grandpa. Like I was needing to be outside of kind of this very enclosed small town environment. Half of my high school class literally went back to the farm. So to even make it out of the town was a really big deal. And so I think it started with curiosity, and then I just became an explorer. I studied abroad. I realized there was a huge world out there, and I started learning very early about how business can change the world. And I went out to Silicon Valley, to Yahoo during Web 1, and I was like, oh my gosh, the internet's changing the world. I need to be a part of it. And so what I think about why am I in Web 3 today and why am I in the NFT world is I just think the internet continues to be a revolution changing our lives. Like, it started long ago, and this is just the next phase. I kind of call it, like, rather than Web 3, is it maybe phase 3. And using arts and illustration as such a central part of this NFT movement is what I'm so jazzed about. Obviously, I like color. And so to have that, oh, here we go, color man himself, we got Baron in red, looking fine. Welcome, Baron, to the panel. So I will wrap there so we can get to our next wonderful guest. But anyway, it's rooted, I believe, the things we do in our life still are rooted in where we came from. And so I've gone from small town girl to global citizen.
Sarah, my fellow Michigander, I know a lot about, sort of being rooted in that story of where you grew up and how you bring your authentic self into the space. And so, Baron, we're just sharing a little bit about who we are and where we come from and how those sort of values are brought into Web3. And so while you think about that, I'm going to share a little bit about like what I, have seen in my experience. So I also grew up in Michigan, and I grew up on the dividing line of like between a suburb, which was very wealthy and well-to-do, and the greater Grand Rapids city area. And that fence in my backyard was a literal and proverbial dividing line between haves and have-nots. It was a stark contrast between skin color, between wealth, between access, between opportunity, and that pissed me off. I did not understand why someone who lived 1 block away from me had a completely different school that they went to, and that school wasn't kept up as nice as mine was, and why didn't they have the same things and opportunities and fun games to play that I did? That felt really unfair. And that drive around trying to increase access and provide experiences that are equitable has been my motivation throughout my entire life, and then brought that into Web3 because I feel like this moment in Web3, we're architecting still the beginning blocks. We could actually do this right. We could actually do this in a way that we don't set up, institutional bias that's baked into the system, and we don't have to work for decades trying to dismantle it. What if we just do it right from the beginning? And so that sort of part of my authentic self and the impact that I want to create is definitely what I brought into the work that I do and the Tuttle Tribe, which Baron has supported as well. So by way of introduction, because I don't think they know who you are, can you tell these people who you are?
Hi, everyone. I'm Baron Davis, former NBA player, played 13 years in the NBA, played 1 year here for the Knicks. I would say the best way to describe me, I come from South Central. I got a scholarship to go to a private school in 7th grade, so it was kind of like LA. I was like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with no Uncle Phil and no Bel Air, so I had to go to the hood every day, hood Disneyland. And so I would say overall it was just, my journey through the league, being my own agent at 20, 21 years old, kind of having this in real life entourage experience. I think my goal is to be a bridge builder and a connector. And so I would say everybody in between my life's journey is building bridges and understanding, what the value of money is, right? As opposed to, what the value of things that are more intangible than money, what the things that money can't buy you. And so I think that as we talk about Web3 and NFTs, we've had a great run, now we're in a bad run. But in the great run, it was a lot of people saying a lot of things and promising. And I think that, now that we've kind of, a lot of the bad seeds are getting shook out, we have a great opportunity to be of substance. And the next wave of creators and people that are building, can actually build with real use cases in mind instead of, these vague dreams in the background, as far as NFTs.
And I'm so glad you mentioned sort of that moment where we are in the market, because actually think, we have this word underdog in the title of our panel, which I think is important to thread out. And I believe this moment represents an opportunity where underdogs can shine. And I think one of the things I'm curious if people want to weigh in on that concept of this moment, underdogs winning, or the concept of, I think we know a lot of what can fuel projects growing, or the excitement in Web3 is the hype and the FOMO. And ultimately that creates this kind of exclusive the Goblin Town party. You had to know where it was. You had to get there on time to be able to get in, right? Sometimes it feels like the underdog. I know, our project is focused on onboarding more women into Web3. I don't happen to have 100+ celebrity friends that I'm able to put on a website and, have them help build a community for me. And so sometimes it can feel like an underdog, right, in this smaller community. And yet, to your point, I think that's actually a moment for people to really win and to thrive. So curious on thoughts on sort of being an underdog either in the market at this moment or being an underdog and not kind of in the hype circle, and what's the opportunity in that?
Chris, we're gonna call on you.
Oh, me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He actually was the moderator, so he's in charge now.
Yeah,
I like
Baron's in
moderators.
charge now.
It was just the question is out there.
Look out.
I'll point to you.
I mean, I have a similar story as Baron. I was lucky to get a scholarship to high school, and I got out of my situation, and I saw the opportunities that came from that network building and being intentional around that to match pieces together. And most folks don't see that until later in life, and they get the confidence to be in those rooms. So I learned early on how to be a chameleon, how to like adapt to where I am and understand what people are like, you know, how they live. And that takes some learning how to do that. And like most people don't feel like they ever have that confidence to do that stuff. This day I kind of like shift between every world at any given time, just from understanding how to be valuable. Again, as you said, being that bridge builder is so important these days, especially in Web3. And you know, people think that failing is a bad thing, but like I failed so many times and things you never heard of that never got off the ground, and things that do, you hear about those things. People now tend to like, you know, say, oh, this person gave me, it was a rug project, or you know, often it's just like they don't know what they're doing, so they're learning in public. And that's dangerous. When you learn in public, you can get a bad reputation. But if you do it the right way and you be transparent about it, then it's done in a very good way. And most folks don't say the truth because they're ashamed of like, you know, not doing well or not having anything like take off. So I hope that more folks have more like empathy and understand that everyone here doesn't know what the hell we're doing. I mean, most people are just learning from doing. So it's important to do things and not be scared to fail.
I mean, one of the things I think about, and I certainly say this when I'm working with like students or next generation entrepreneurs, is it's really, really okay to be crazy. And if you look at the definition of crazy in the dictionary and you look at the definition of visionary, they're incredibly close. And for a long, long time, Steve Jobs was crazy. And then just something switched, right? It was like that product launch, that hit that he made. But he was so on the trail of kind of being out on the edge the entire time, and then it just flipped, and he was no longer crazy. He was suddenly the most visionary, incredible technology founder ever. And so I just really encourage people to be themselves and to be on the edge and to just accept it and own it. And people will see that, and you'll find the right followers that way as well if you're really just kind of like show people who you are. And instead of being worried about like conforming or, you know, being part of the pack, I think, again, an opportunity within NFTs and in this world is to just kind of own your own projects, initiatives, and mission. And it's really awesome if it's different than everyone else. To Chris's point, like there is no reason to copy what everyone else is doing. Why not flip the switch and do something incredibly different?
I'm going to add that during crypto downturns, it's a time for people to build. So when everything's on a bull run, every project looks amazing, every community looks like it's going to be the biggest thing ever. And now we're at a point where it's an opportunity for the underdogs who are actually building out those communities to make something real and prove that they have real utility for their project owners, and what that will look like. And they have the time now, and they need to be more conscious about how they use the money. And they can't just sell everything based on hype the way they could have 2 months ago. So I think it's an opportunity for the underdogs to shine.
Love it. And I think, you know, a lot of what we're talking about when we're talking about bridge building, you know, is really core to relationship building, right? And the collaborative spirit of this moment. And I think a lot of the work that I do around sort of gender equity and onboarding more women, it demands our male allies to engage in a certain way. And I think, you know, there's a lot of bridge building and relational building there. And I know that that's something you care a lot about. And in your bridge building have made a concerted effort to really be an ally, lift up others. And so I'm wondering if we could just talk now a little bit about some of the collaborations and maybe the allyship in the way that we've used our authentic selves to impact others in that way.
Yeah, you know, we've collaborated on the Tuttle Tribe, you know, back in its launch at our studio. Chris got me involved in Club 11, NFT drop. I would say it has made teaching Web3 and NFTs so much easier to all my friends. They understand the Club 11 NFT and the Captain's Club and the perks. I would say for us, you can find us at morethanus.io. And we just really operate like a venture studio, but we are a maker studio. We like to make shit, and we like to make things in collaboration with people. And so we specialize in building metaverses, building digital experiences, building in real life experiences, and taking entrepreneurs and creators and putting them next up, right? And getting our ecosystem of people to really champion for, the entrepreneurs as a whole. And I think for the underdogs, it's like now it's time for the underdogs to really start, showing what they're capable of. And so I'm here, I'm excited. Thursday, we have one of our first metaverse experiences with Hennessy, Never Stop, Never Settle Society. So we'll be, I think today we're releasing access passes to that, and we're having a party, a draft party Thursday, and a metaverse party and live stream for the draft. I think Thursday is tomorrow, and then we'll do it again for the BET weekend. But the goal was like start to partner with brands, partner with the, partner with different NFT companies and discourse, bringing them into now an environment and an ecosystem where we can entertain them. And so in real life and in digital. So that's what we're up to. And that's happening tomorrow. And I would say I'm excited about that. That's the most thing I'm excited about.
Any other relational, like the way that relationships and bridge building occurs in Web3 and why that matters? I'm really curious, the events and the experiences that you plan and the intentionality that you put into those experiences, right? It's not just sort of the venue and the food, right? You're actually planning for relational outcomes at an in-person experience. So how do you think about that, live moment building connections?
Yeah, I think when you think about experience design, there's a lot of attention to small details. I'm sure you've known this at Club 11, like how we can make a VIP experience feel really awesome to the folks that come in the door and paying a lot of money to be there. I was just kind of sitting on this panel, I'm like, I really have to lean to see my friends here. So there's something about doing it in an arc which would be more efficient. So thinking about all the different types of audiences that you are interacting with. And I think if you're partnering with big brands, there's just like little kind of attention to detail moments. And if, for example, like my business partner and I ran a concierge desk at NFT.NYC, and we were trying to give the VIPs an outlet where they could talk to a real person if they had any questions about their panels or whatever was going on. And I know we had some questions about our panel, and it was impossible to get in touch with a person. So it's all about treating the folks in your community right and understanding what their wants and needs are and empathizing with them.
So I think if I were to sort of synthesize where we are in this panel and the insights we've arrived at is like first, like starting with who am I, even from, when I was a kid, and like what things about my experiences bring me to the set of values that I have right now and how those play out in my work and the decisions that I'm making, and then how the relationships with other people play out into this, and how the concept of whether feeling like I'm at a high, I'm winning, or I'm at a low, this is tough, and I'm an underdog, like how that either fuels us or holds us back. So those are some of the insights I'm distilling. We've got a couple minutes before we go. People are, sort of just opening their eyes to this next NFT.NYC day. And I'd love to end with like one key insight and one key push for folks who are here, want to also make impact, and they want our secrets. So like, what is our biggest secret or insight that we can leave them with for the rest of the day?
Well, secrets are be consistent. Do something every week the same you're going to do as the week before, and be that opening point to people. So today is a good example. If 5 o'clock today in Union Square Park, we're having a huge Web3 gathering of all project leaders in the space. And I do it in Miami every Wednesday, actually, so we're doing it here. So come, show up, meet folks who are building things on the ground level, also folks who are high level. So those spaces don't happen very often where you can have that access to people just like in public. So just show up and be consistent.
I'd say that events and parties are fun, and we put a lot of them on, but at the end of the day, the thing that you remember the most are the connections you made and the people that you met. So focus on that. Truly be present at all the events that they're going on and all the competing parties. Like, figure out how you can really make a relationship with someone and keep that thing going.
So I said be crazy earlier. I think it's, again, be different and build relationships in a different way. So I will point out my shoes only because I decided to have NFTs painted on my shoes. The artist of Tuttle Tribe, Superama, has become a dear friend. The artist of Pop Art Cats from Montreal has become a dear friend because literally we set up a collaboration with my Louis Vuitton shoes. And it's just be unique, be different, build relationships in an interesting way so that you'll have these friendships in the future.
And Lou, don't kick us off yet. Baron has a secret.
You have to try really hard to be a failure. So there's no such thing as failure, being a failure, as long as you're trying hard to succeed. But you have to try really, really hard to be a failure. So there's no such thing as failure.
All right.
Boom.
Skip the